So, the big COP30 climate summit just wrapped up, and let's just say it left a lot of people feeling, well, pretty disappointed. But while all the political drama was unfolding, something else was happening. Scientists dropped a bombshell warning about a climate tipping point that might be way closer than any of us thought. Today, we're going to dig into both of those stories. All right, so let's get right into it. The summit was in Brazil, and when it was all over, a lot of people were asking, was that it? Was this whole thing just a bonfire of environmental vanities? A big show that didn't actually get us anywhere? So, to really get why everyone's so down on it, let's take a look at the summit's official report card, so to speak. What did they actually get done? Yeah, it's never a good sign when the UN Secretary General himself basically says, we missed the mark. He said the gap between where we are and what the science demands remains dangerously wide. I mean, that's pretty blunt. The gap isn't just big, it's dangerously wide. So what's the bottom line here? Well, the most positive spin anyone could put on it is that, hey, at least the process isn't dead. But man, is it slow. Someone described it as a slow bicycle race, the kind where the goal is to go as slow as possible without falling over, and the slowest rider actually wins. That's kind of what it feels like with these climate talks. Okay, so a failing grade. But why? What was so bad about the final agreement? What was missing that made everyone so frustrated? Well, it turns out the final agreement was a huge deal, mostly because of what it didn't say. There were two gigantic, glaring holes in it. And what's really wild is that this summit was in Brazil, right on the doorstep of the Amazon rainforest. Get this. The two things that are, the main drivers of climate change, fossil fuels and deforestation, they were basically nowhere to be seen in the final text. I mean, no mention of phasing them out. This wasn't just a failure to move forward. To a lot of people, it felt like they were actively taking a step back. So what was gumming up the works? Well, a lot of fingers were pointing at the United States. Sources were saying the U.S. was actively sabotaging the whole thing, backpedaling at pace. And while this was happening, what was the rest of the world supposed to do? Well, they saw China powering ahead with renewables and basically decided their own move was to keep the game alive. The thinking was, let's just keep the process from totally collapsing until maybe the U.S. decides to get back in the game. Okay, but here's where the story takes a really sharp turn. This political slow walking is happening at the absolute worst time, because while the politicians are in that slow bicycle race, a huge critical piece of our planet's climate system is speeding towards a cliff. And that sets up this incredible and frankly scary paradox. It's a mouthful, but it's called the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. Let's just call it the AMOC. So what is it? Think of it like a giant heat pump for the planet. It's this massive ocean current that carries warm water up from the tropics into the North Atlantic. And this is a huge deal. It's literally the reason why places like Ireland and Iceland are 5 to 10 degrees warmer than they have any right to be at that latitude. And this is where that paradox I mentioned comes in. It's a real mind-bender. Global warming is making the Greenland ice sheet melt fast. All of that fresh, cold water is gushing into the North Atlantic. And that's a problem because it's messing with the ocean's saltiness and it could literally shut down that heat pump. So get this, global warming could trigger a regional deep freeze. Wild, right? Okay, so what are the odds? What are the chances of this whole system just stopping? Well, the latest science is, to put it mildly, not great. First off, this isn't some far-off possibility. Scientists have already measured it. The AMOC has already slowed down by more than 15%. This is happening right now. It's not a theory, it's an observation. But okay, 15% is one thing. What about a total collapse, a complete shutdown? What's the risk of that happening? For a long time, the official line from big climate bodies was, probably not going to happen this century, low risk. Well, that was then. The newest research, which, is always years ahead of those official reports, paints a very different picture, a much scarier one. The chances of a total collapse by the end of this century? It's now estimated at 50-50, a coin toss, literally a flip of a coin. And just think about what that coin toss means. If it lands on the wrong side, we're not talking about a slow, gradual cooling over centuries. We're talking about a potential plunge into a totally different climate in just a few years. Imagine 6 months of frozen conditions in northwestern Europe, the complete collapse of grass-based agriculture, sea lanes so clogged with icebergs that ships can't get through, cutting off entire countries. So let's go back to that slow bicycle race. While the world's politicians are dragging their feet, what about the countries that are right in the line of fire? How are they reacting to this threat? Well, they're not messing around. The Icelandic government has come right out and declared a potential AMOC shutdown a direct threat to our national resilience and security. Think about that language. This isn't an environmental issue for them anymore. It's a national security threat. And they're saying flat out that everyone has been massively underestimating the danger. And it's not just Iceland. All the Nordic countries have gotten together and formed a special expert panel. And here's the key thing. Their job isn't to argue about whether the science is right. They've moved past that. Their job now is to figure out what a shutdown would actually do to their people, their economies, their entire way of life. They are actively preparing for the consequences. Which brings us to this final, really unsettling thought. You have global politics moving at the speed of a glacier, thinking in terms of decades. And at the same time, you have the planet's climate system capable of changing in the blink of an eye, in just a few years. It's a huge, terrifying mismatch in speed. And it leaves you with one big question. If the politicians are moving this slowly, who is actually preparing for the unthinkable?